We move on now to the New Orleans Saints. Right. They have the worst odds to win a Super Bowl. If you listen to all 32 teams, they're right at the footnote of the league when it comes to whether they can go and win it all. The script writers, if they exist, I don't think they do exist, but if they exist, might be trying to conjure some way that the Saints are picking first in the draft when Archie Manning is coming in. Of course, that's if he is going to be drafted eligible in 2026. Brian, any reason to look forward to what the New Orleans Saints will do this year? Because, to be fair, a lot of teams in the past have been completely written off and have found ways to shock us. Not least, I think, Saints teams in the past. But, geez, I'm finding it very difficult to find ways to get excited about anything about this squad.
So am I, Shane. Don't worry. I'm not going to cause a big surprise and go a different route and try to have an alternative, which I try to do every year. I try to adapt to some team that I believe could shock the airwaves over the course of the year. But they do have the X factor in Brandon Staley, Shane, don't they? He's the new defensive coordinator there now since Dennis Allen has been relieved of his duties. There's problems with that defense, as good as they've been over the last 3 or 4 years, and it was been sporadic. Like, they play really well in certain games, and then they go missing in others. They're aging. There's quite some strong players there who had some stellar days and great careers, but they're aging. And you have like the Honey Badger who was brought in there. He's retired since. It looks very different for me. You know, they trade away players last year on the trade deadline day, which kind of effectively kind of put you in the picture that they're looking to the future. It's very difficult to see. The only thing I would say is like this division is quirky, and I said like they could in their own right they could go out one day and so competitiveness and the rivalry against the likes of the Saints and the Bucs that they could win games. Like there was a time where they owned the Bucs and the Bucs couldn't get the beating of them even when they weren't having the best of seasons. Offensively, right now we still don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Tyler Shook and Spencer Rattler both played. I know it's preseason. We'll caveat that with what we're talking about, that there's no real substance to the play. It's all vanilla stuff, but neither of them really put their best foot forward over the course of their period in the game. I know there was some nice plays from both of them at times, and Tyler Shook had that fantastic touchdown, but none of them really kind of pushed the narrative or pushed the envelope towards either of them over the course of those 4 quarters last weekend. Maybe we'll see a little bit more this weekend. They've still got some nice players there. Olave is a great player. Kamara, in his own right, is a great running back, but the consistency seems to be gone over the course of the last few years. He has some great games. It's difficult to see how they're going to put it all together. And like even the fact that Derek Carr has walked away from a situation, like Derek Carr obviously has his shoulder injuries, but you wonder did he know what was coming, and he felt right. Their time is right now to get out of the season. It sounds like I'm really putting this team down, but you look at what they have in paper, you look at what they're up against in the division, you look at the schedule, and it's different for me to see how they're going to get more than 5 or 6 wins. Maybe that's even more than what people are expecting. I think that's the type of season we're looking ahead. And then inevitably the conversation is going to, by November, December, and Kieran Boyle knows this very well, about whether Archie Manning is coming out in the next year's draft, and the comparables of him going and playing New Orleans with the factor of the family and his great grandfather, shall we say? It is his grandfather. Sorry, whether he'll be a Saint, but looks like he may stay another year. But inevitably, that's going to be the conversation.
Kieran Boyle, I think. Sorry, it was funny. You mentioned that Brandon Staley. I completely forgot about that. If I'd known that, I would have thrown that. I would have thrown that straight at you, Brian.
I'll never forget that one. I won't forget him. Don't worry, Shane. He's a marked man in my eyes.
But Kieran Boyle, I think one aspect that we're probably overlooking a little bit is the fact that in terms of the offensive coaching, they have Kellen Moore coming in, who of course was the offensive coordinator last year for the Eagles, won a Super Bowl. The new offensive coordinator, Doug Nussmeier, quarterbacks coach for the last year at the Eagles, won a Super Bowl. You look at the first 2 picks they take in the draft. Take Kevin Banks, tackle out of Texas. Tyler Shook, quarterback out of Louisville. Tyler Shook had a decent performance based on all records against the Chargers in the recent preseason game. If you're looking for someone who can build an offensive culture, trying to find a way to learn from what Philadelphia are doing is the right way to do it. And maybe there is a little bit of hope in terms of in terms of that aspect of it, as to how the Saints build into the year.
That's a bit of a stretch. I think that's a great lead up, and it's a great kind of intro. But
I'm doing my best here. I'm doing my best.
I know we're all trying to hype them up, but when you look across the board, there's not a huge amount of optimism. I mean, it's going to be a great weekend or a great week for Niners fans or Cardinals fans. I think the Giants play there, so that's going to be a great weekend for them. But for the Saints, for the home team fans, it's going to be a really tough season. I mean, Kellen Moore he's come from coaching at the Eagles and the Cowboys, perennial winners. Well, maybe not the Cowboys, but with the Eagles. and he's going to struggle mightily. There's not a lot of talent across the board. They like you said, they did draft Kelvin Banks, a left tackle, who everybody needs a solid left tackle. They got a couple of free agents, Cam Akers, but there's not a huge amount of talent across the board, and I factor that in with a tough division. Probably the only thing this team can really hang their hat on is the defense. They still have Chase Young. They got Brian Breesy, Jonathan Bullard, Cam Jordan is still playing, Demario Davis, Justin Reed they picked up from the Eagles, from the Super Bowl winners. So there are some weapons and there is some talent on the defense. But for me, it's going to be a really, really tough season for Moore. I mean, he's obviously looking past this season because, everybody knows there's not a lot of talent here. And the quarterback situation is just bizarre. We always talk about, when you got two quarterbacks, you got none. This team's got three. Who's going to play? We don't know. This could be revolving doors all season, depending on what happens. For me, the question marks, obviously we know that they're not going to be very good. I don't think there's very many redeeming points or factors that will say, oh, we should have seen the Saints coming in October coming strong. But, this is a team that started off 2-0 last year, and they ended up going 3-12 down the stretch. That's tough. And I don't see much of an improvement this year. It's the first year Kellen Moore is a head coach. The O-line is a huge question. You got rookies and Telis Fuaga playing right tackles. You got question marks as regards kind of not skill, but as regards experience on both sides. This might be, I don't want to piss off any Saints fans or annoy them, but this might be the worst constructed roster in the league. And I don't know. They got 5 wins last year. If they match that, it would be a huge achievement because you got a tough schedule. Like you said, you're playing the NFC West. I think the AFC East, I'm pretty sure about that, on top of the NFC South. And that's going to be week on week. It's going to be tough. I just can't see any redeeming points for this team. And I think it's going to be another almost a similar situation to last year with regards to how they played and their record. They just won't have Derek Carr to boo. That's all.
Good point. Does it look at the schedule here? The Saints are hosting the Giants, and the following week the Saints are hosting the Patriots. We could all go down and have a big party, start eating the alligator tail, which you made us all eat, Kieran. I can't believe I ate alligator when I was in
We'll
Louisiana.
go back and see our favorite waitress.
Yeah, exactly. Have a good time on Bourbon Street whilst tearing up the fact that the Giants and Patriots, certainly judging on the roster and everything we expect from the Saints, will probably have 2 pretty decent wins there. Kieran, is there any reason to have belief that the Saints will not be picking first overall in the draft when we get to Pittsburgh next year?
No, there's absolutely not. I think this is going to be the worst team in football, and I'm going to keep this very short. This is my take. This is my take for the Saints this year. Barring injury, Charlie Smith is the most likely Irish kicker to usurp the starter. I think that's the only thing I can think of to be hopeful, because the other 2 guys are kind of behind seasoned vets. I know Blake Groupie was fine last year, but watch out for Charlie Smith becoming the starting kicker for the Saints, which you'd love to see. But no, looking at it, Alvin Kamara's a decent running back. Chris Olave, what I don't know what the status is of Taysom Hill. Whether he can come in and be a bit of a Swiss Army knife like he has been. I love watching him. We all love watching him because you just never know what he's going to do. I'm clutching at straws, trying to find positives here. We saw a bit of Spencer Rattler last year. It wasn't pretty. Maybe Tyler Shough comes out and becomes the best rookie this year of the quarterbacks. Apologies to the Jackson Dart fans in this group, but maybe that's a reason to be hopeful. But no, an overhaul of the coaching staff, an overhaul of the offensive line. As you said, you've mentioned everything. They brought in Justin Reed, but no, I think the best outcome for the Saints is that they hit rock bottom. Arch declares for 2026, and he's the starting quarterback next year.